All right, we're going to roll into what's new in Vistro in 2026 to continue the theme of the new release. And here we go. So the focus of Vistro was to really provide some cloud functionality. So we had vSum with dashboards previously. We had Visum last year start coming in with some dashboards previously. So this year we wanted to bring some of that same functionality into Vistro and integrate it with Hub. So we focused on the commenting, the collaboration. We're looking at some scenario comparisons within dashboards. And of course, we always improve signals and stuff like that within Vistro. So that was the main focus for this year. And you can see if does anyone know what the pretzel is, by the way? That's an inside joke for Vistro. The old Vistro logo looked like a pretzel, so it's still the pretzel product in my head. Anyway, what's new in Vistro? So dashboard integration. So lucky people who got to take the hub training yesterday saw a little bit of this. Vistro data now can be moved into hub dashboards. And this provides some really cool functionality that takes your boring TIA reports and studies, the old way of doing things, and moving it into the future. So you could look at flow bundles. So your site generated trips can be added up as a flow bundle to see visually which roadways are starting to have the largest amount of trips on them. You can do OD visualizations within Vistro to really emphasize these are the places that are attracting the most trips or sending the most trips to other gates. And you can put your ITE tables down there as well. And this all helps reviewers look at the information and digest it in a different way other than a boring appendices or something like that in your traffic impact study report. So I'm very excited about this. We saw from the other two presentations about this movement widget. Vistro also plays along with this. And actually, it's one of the most important aspects to this movement widget within dashboards, because most of the Vistro data is intersection-based data, movement data. So the movements widget provides a lot of powerful information and visualizations that you can create. You can show all the different volumes that you have with base volumes, future volumes, site volumes. You can look at delays and V over C ratios and get these all onto these nice dynamic maps and visualizations. So it's super cool for Vistro users. Commenting, as we saw before, Vistro also has the commenting functionality. You're able to comment specifically on the intersections and on zones and gates and things like that to provide the feedback, again, to support these reviews for these TIAs. So, I mean, with Vistro, you should be, let's put it that way, should be using it more than a lot of the other softwares, because it tends to have that type of group of work tends to have a lot more short-term studies and reviews. And if you're a consulting firm, you have a lot of projects in that realm of work. So again, these reviewing functionalities and reporting functionalities for Vistro could really come in handy with these short-term projects and turnaround projects. Something that is maybe not as exciting yet, but it's still a pretty cool feature, is we have a new docking framework within Vistro. This was mostly to house the commenting pane that we did, the window. If you remember last year in 2025, we introduced Companion. And if you use the chatbot, it was kind of floating on the screen. It didn't know where to go, but now it actually opens into this new docking framework. Eventually, at some point, we'll probably embed the start page like you see it in the other products. And maybe there'll be some cloud functionality in the future we can add into this new docking pane. So I have some ideas, like maybe you can actually open models and stuff like this in this new framework. So Vistro is getting updated there. Trip Generation 12 is now in Vistro. So if you have access to the old Trip Generation 11, I think you can upgrade to Trip Generation 12 quite easily. You might have to buy the new one. We don't actually sell the licenses. This is something that you're going to have to do through ITE to get access to their API. But yeah, we have the functionality to use your login and username from ITE, and you can get that straight into Vistro and get Trip Generation 12. So, and it's really nice feature. Moving into more of the traffic control space, we have two-way yields within Vistro. I introduced that last year. We kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Before we just hacked it in there basically by the 2025 release last year. But this time we got the reports, the grids, everything to show two-way yields consistently. So if you have a yield, you'll see a yield and not a stop sign. And the flashing yellow arrow, we heard about this during Matthias's presentation on the VisSim side. Vistro had this in pretty early at the year, and you could do the analysis. There's a checkbox for it, the toggle, the flashing yellow on or off, and it switches the signal groups around to get the right green share. But what was important with Matthias's addition to the flashing yellow arrow is now that when you go from Vistro to Visum, there's actually a place to put the data. So we do actually support the flashing yellow arrow with the A&M conversion. So you can go into Visum as well. This one's a little bit more technical. If you're familiar with the semi-actuated controllers and fully actuated controllers, the way Vistro does default signalization previously was you would hit default signalization and you would still have to check all of the detectors and coordinations and things like this. So there were some chances for error when you were coding this. And when you moved it into Visum, sometimes the detector wasn't checked, and then all the vehicles are sitting in the simulation, and you're like, well, that's not cool. So you had to go back and fix it and then send the data forward again. So we've updated the logic. If you have a semi-actuated controller, this first one, it doesn't check the boxes for the detectors on the major street, which is as expected for the through movements. And it checks the coordinated phases in the right place for the major street. And if you have the fully actuated signal set up, it will check the detectors for all the phases automatically for you. Feel free to uncheck them if you want, but it will check them for you. And that way, again, it provides a little bit more consistency. If you remember, we have can you even see that off the side? Yes, you can. There is a button to actually turn on the detection. So we do visualize the detection within Vistro. And you can make all of these confirmations that you have the right detection. So it goes really well with this feature. And it's in addition to the last features that I just presented, we are a little bit stricter now on the ICA check because sometimes people were coding signals, they weren't putting the right coordinated phases and signal groups in. Sometimes they weren't checking the detectors. So we actually enforced it where you might not get a result now unless you code it correctly, which is actually a good thing because you know you're going to get the right results in the end. So yeah, if you start seeing more red X's on older models, that's likely the case. But if you just check the detectors and then also the right coordination groups, everything should be resolved. The error messages that we provide are quite helpful, and it should steer you in the right direction. Okay, this is another technical feature as part of commenting, but it does move into the future for Vistro a little bit. To place a comment, we needed to update how we select objects within Vistro. On the backend side, it's like I said, it's like super development talk. This does open the door now to finally get around to some features that have been heavily requested, and we will be working on these hopefully this year. One is a spatial selection, so you can select multiple nodes and hit that delete button if you want to clear out multiple intersections at one time. Another one potentially could be creating subsections within Vistro, so you could draw a boundary box and then export out a subsection if you wanted to do something like that. So both of those features have been heavily requested, but now we have the technology in Vistro to actually do those features. That can go forward. On the export side, this is actually an awesome feature, by the way. It's export and import. So behind Vistro now is a PRBC signal controller. It's kind of hidden under the hood, so to speak, but it's the same signal controller that's in VSUM and also in VISM. So when you are coding your signals within Vistro, it's the same data types. You're basically doing the same thing in all three programs now, which is great. We built in an import and export tool. And for example, the workflow could be you have a VISM model and you have a Vistro model. You do some optimization in your Vistro model for testing a new scenario or something. You can grab all those PRBCs in one folder and send them and map them basically into VISM, and it will update all the signal controllers on the VISM side. Or it'll be vice versa. Say you run a simulation in VISM and you maybe tweak some of the timings just a little bit because the simulation, might catch some more things that Vistro does not. You can tweak that timing and send it back to Vistro, so at least everything's in consistency and you're using the same signal information. Super cool feature. For those who have used it, they liked it. And as usual, we have some synchro improvements, importing and exporting some synchro. There's consistent node numberings and phasings on the exports. We had some issues, for example, if you maybe had a 6-phase signal versus an 8-phase signal, sometimes the signal group would get renumbered differently in synchro. We fixed that. We improved the accuracy for the channelization data. So if you're exporting from Vistro to Synchro, the channelization comes in. There's some UTDF improvements with phase updates and durations. Yeah. So it's all in all, it's a better exchange for those who are going to Synchro. But I do have to ask the question, why are you using Synchro? Vistro looks amazing. Look at this versus that. It's quite nice. We have the nice channelization, just like Synchro has the channelization. But it gets really interesting when you have things like, the lane openings and lane drops. Here's a lane drop down here. We don't need a dummy node. Synchro needs a dummy node. We don't need a dummy node. We have beautiful radii. We have pedestrians on our signal views and things like this. We can do LPIs. So yeah, think about that next time. We're spending a lot of effort from your feedback, of course, to build all of these synchro features for exports. But ask the question, do you need it? All right. All right, let's talk about some quick coming soon things for the roadmap. And again, I want your feedback from this. This is a good opportunity to give me information on what's important. So this first one is definitely a PTV hub feature. Right now, the Vistro model is just, it's basically a zip file. It just sends it to the model storage on hub. But we want to utilize the scenario management a little bit better on the hub side. So this would also provide some simulations and KPIs in the future. So it's definitely a direction we want to go there. We're also exploring the idea to get simulation results from Vistro. And this, again, could be triggered using VISM in the cloud. And we would use the cloud computations to somehow trigger simulation results. You can always view the simulation in Vistro using the previewer to VISM. So seeing it is not the problem. It's just getting the results. And we're continuing developing the dashboards. Templates, I've heard a lot of you talk about templates and making it easier to reuse and recycle dashboards for Vistro. Again, with these TIA workflows and using it on multiple projects, this is incredibly important. And we're working on some signal data and getting the signal group information and timing information into the dashboards currently right now. This other topic that's probably not super exciting for this room, but globally it could consume some of our development time, is this stage-based controller and making sure that Vistro also has more of a world-compatible controller, and then we can play in the playgrounds such as Middle East and Asia and South America. Some of the South Americans here like this feature, so hello in the back room. And then what's coming in the next couple service packs, we like stealing things at PTV. So I let the vSUM team develop the Syntrax volume import first. And after they get everything all figured out, I'm going to steal it and put it into Vistro. Matthias stole my Google Street View feature. That actually came from Vistro first last year, if anyone remembers. So we like to recycle the information. Bulk selections, as I mentioned, now that we have that enabled, it would be great to select multiple intersections and modify them or delete them. And then signal group data and dashboards, mentioned that. Max Green, we're going to allow decimal places for the max green. So that's actually very nice. Lost time calculations, right now you have to enter the lost times manually. And this time we'll do some calculations based on critical lane movements, and it just makes the workflow a little bit easier. And then Bill Sisko's favorite feature is the active pattern bulk update. Right now, we have patterns within Vistro where you can do multiple time of day plans. But sometimes like if you want to say like scenario 1 is pattern 1, scenario 2 is pattern 2, you have to go to every single intersection and update it to pattern 2. So we want to add it to our multi-change somehow to consistently update the patterns where they need to be updated.